Going yet I look so skinny. God. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Vito x DINO podcast. This is episode number 84. Jesus H. Christ. My name is Vito Delsante. His name is Dean Haspiel.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dean Haspiel.
And with us today is Dan Theodore. Dan actually backed Dean's Antimatter comic, which we're going to get into. There's some exciting news about Antimatter that we just got today. But Dan is one of the backers that decided to come on our podcast. So Dan Theodore, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. I've been backing a bunch of Dean's Kickstarters over the last few years.
Thank you, Dan. I'm really kind to you, man. You've always been a good supporter of my deep cuts, at least. You know, just to let people know they're listening. I may be a little distracted sometimes because I'm at my studio and it's raining really heavily and there are leaks everywhere. So I'm having to, you might hear like dripping into buckets or, I was trying to avoid getting my laptop soaked, because that would be a disaster. So
you might float
I apologize.
During the show.
I might float. I mean, I'm wondering if there's a flood above me right now that's just slowly breaking through the cement. I don't know, but we did identify that there have been patches put in the ceiling from previous tenants. So this has happened before. Anyway, this is almost a normal thing, I think, for a lot of artists, So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. But Dan, I want our listeners to learn about you. And I would love to hear your thoughts about Antimatter, which you shared a little bit with over email, and other, obviously, comics that you've supported very kindly. And I'm trying to remember the first time I met you, but I distinctly remember an encounter where it was in Brooklyn, and I believe Evan Dorkin was doing a signing, and you had a sketchbook with you.
Yes, I always carry a sketchbook now. It's sort of like for years I collected a lot of original comic art. Kind of just fell into that by accident. But as I get a little older and I find my walls have no space for more comic art, I have leaned toward just adding to my sketchbook year by year. And as I go to different events, and Evan is a really nice guy when he's relaxed. And
Vito knows Evan as well. I mean,
yeah.
Evan worked at Jim Hanley's Universe, and so did Vito until it became JHU Comics, and they're in Staten Island now. But and I don't actually remember encountering Evan at Jim Hanley's. I met him years before when he was working on Pirate Corps for Eternity Comics, and I was working on The Verdict. So I met this scrappy little dude at Brian David Marshall's office, or whatever it was that they were using as a office space, and there was this guy that was snarky back then, like that's part of his brand, and I can only imagine what he was like at the comic shop. Like I could see him, maybe he didn't do this, but I could see him like somebody pulling up with like 6 comics and him just dissing every choice that person made and losing a sale, basically. So
like Jack Black in High Fidelity.
Yeah,
totally. So, but anyway, so I think you were there at this. It was like a vinyl record shop, and I believe the person who owned it or was running it also worked in comics, and was one of the reasons why I went there. And then you had this really cool sketchbook, and it actually had a really cool cover, and I think I might have commented on it. And
Charles Burns. It was a Charles Burns, a blank sketchbook with Charles Burns, and it was from, I believe, AMOCA, Museum of Comic Cartoon Art Festival, where I had bought that, and he was one of the first. Charles Burns was one of the first people to draw in it. And I went around the room, and actually, once I had him in there, it was easy for other people who wanted to do it.
Absolutely. They want to sidle up.
It ended up being gold, like Gary Panter drew in it, and you did. But that was the joke.
That was the weird part. I'm like admiring this sketchbook, going, "Oh my god!" and doing what you just said, looking at Charles Burns, I'm like, I want to draw something there, and then you turn to a page, and I already had.
Yeah, like, that was you said. Where did
I
you
was
get
not
that?
worthy. I was not worthy. And then I kept thinking, yeah, how'd you get that? Where'd you get that from? Like, did you get it from another sketchbook of lesser creators and just somehow
No.
like
Well, I'm not. It's mine is a wide variety, and as a matter of fact, last Thursday I came down to Brooklyn, that distant land, to see Gabrielle Bell was having a party to celebrate her zines publication, and she contributed a sketch to my book.
Oh, that's awesome. I actually want to get that zine. It looks fascinating. It's she's going through some health stuff, and I think she was documenting some of that in this robust zine that and I've known her for years, you know, like way back the alternative comics days with Jeffrey Mason, and they were publishing, he published a Billy Dogma comic I did called Aim to Dazzle, and then he and Top Shelf co-published a collection of like memoir comics called Opposable Thumbs, which got me an Eisner nomination for, and they don't do this award anymore, but the award already is in the nomination. I think it's like talent that deserves wider recognition. And so it's already, I won in the nomination, you know?
Yeah, that's
like,
sure. You got the wider recognition.
You're getting the wide, it's putting me on the map kind of thing. Yeah, so we kind of like talked through this sketchbook, and then I discovered that you're a collector of great comics art. I mean, you have a huge collection of stuff. To the point where you had gallery shows, you know? Tell us something about that. Like, what is your fascination with comics art?
Well, it actually started, I read comics as a kid. My father was a big newspaper comics fan. He would take me to gallery showings of original newspaper comics. There was an exhibit many, many years ago at the gallery that was on Columbus Circle. The Arabesque building was built as a gallery. It was kind of like a square version of the Guggenheim, in which it cycled down like a corkscrew, but it was rectangular, so it had squared corners. And I always was into newspaper comics, and the very first comic that really hit me, even as very young, was Peanuts. I mean, Schultz really hit something that was, I recognize as being true. Children are fucked up.
Yeah.
and their problems couldn't be solved in 30 minutes or less, which when I was growing up in the suburbs in the 60s, everyone else's family looked normal on the outside. So, you know, not be feeling so normal on the inside made me identify very strongly with those characters and recognize the kindred spirit.
Yeah, I came to Peanuts late, meaning I was reading it as a kid in the paper, but I was more of a Calvin and Hobbes guy, you know? And
well, that's because you're younger than me.
Well, there's Hagar the Horrible, there's Motley's Crew, I think. Beetle Bailey. I'm trying to think. Oh, DONDI. DONDI kind of freaked me out as a kid. I didn't understand that comic. It seemed so depressing and sad.
It is.
You know?
It frightened me as well. Like I think mostly because he was supposed to be an Italian immigrant kid. So I think at some point someone remarked that I looked like him as a child. And I was like, no, like he has black eyes. Like he's like little
big saucer black eyes, like the opposite of Annie. Annie had little white dot eyes, you know. And Bob Fingerman also was accused of looking like DONDI as a kid, you know. But it was just hard to like. It was such a struggle, and I actually don't remember reading it. Except he was an immigrant, right? So he was dealing with America.
He was more an immigrant. He was an orphan child. He was
right.
And there were other episodes, you know, he was dealing with homeless people. He was dealing with the issues in that.
So he was like the poor Annie in a way, you know, like,
you know, again, did find family. He did find place. And, but that was Irwin Hasen's book is, his strip was very, very different than a lot of things going on at the time. Calvin and Hobbes is much later. That didn't really come until I was maybe in college even. That's much later for me, but certainly stuff I love. I made the trip up to Cooperstown while they had his exhibit there
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
That was a day trip for me just to drive up to Cooperstown and see that.
Yep. There was a Blondie. There was Dennis the Menace. Far Side. The Far Side was
that's still later too.
Awesome.
Like I still think like Broomhilda, Marmaduke. Yeah. Like those are the ones. Marmaduke. It wasn't like a 3 or 4 panel strip.
No, it was a single. It was a cartoon, single square. Yeah.
Like Family Circus.
I visited a statue of Marmaduke and his creator upstate just last year in his hometown.
Oh, wow.
These are the sorts of things I do seek out. Is my wife Carol is so good at finding ridiculous things to visit.
So I have to ask you a question just to stop for a second. Is that a mirror or a window behind you?
That's a window because this room used to be the outside of the house. So that's a window to the kitchen.
Because I see a woman back there, I think.
That is my wife.
There's your wife. Oh, she's waving. I was like, there's someone is in the house, Dan.
Yes, we have burglars here who are doing the dishes for me.
You have burglars, you make them do dishes. Okay, I like that.
Yes. And behind me, that's a picture of my first dog, Roxanne. That's actually a cross stitch of Roxanne based on the
German Shepherd.
No, she was a Canaan dog. A wild dog from Israel. Looked like a big fox.
Oh yeah, I can see it now.
And she was a sweetheart. My current dog is a Pitsky, and her name is Laika, not the camera, the space dog. Let's be clear here.
I met a Laika. So we have a new studio mate down the hall that does
the lights
filmmaker. I know the lights went, and now here comes the knives. No, there's down the hall is a new studio mate named Amanda, and she is a filmmaker, and she's doing a feature film about being a Luddite or something. And she has like a Belgian animator here doing some of the work, but she walks around with the dog, and the name of the dog is Laika. And I'm a little confused. Like anybody who calls their dog Laika, that to me is a sad name because what I associate with Laika. You know,
yes, it is.
Our guy Nick Abazis did a award-winning graphic novel about Laika, the dog, the famous Russian dog that was sent into outer space to test outer space.
I love
but it didn't come back.
Novel. I gave Yes, I gave a copy of that novel to one of the little kids down. Well, she was a little kid now. She's not anymore. A girl down the street.
Right.
I have a little free library in front of my house, and I added a comic book annex to it a couple of years later. And, that's been renovated the last few weeks. I had to replace the door and the roof on that. But
that's great.
My way of making sure the children that I destroyed the minds of the people around my neighborhood. You know,
you made them sad.
Your Frederick
Wortham. Not all of them are sad. You know, there's lots of
the Laika book I think is sad. But my mother has a little library in front of her home in Florida, but they're all like spy novels or something. So yeah. Oh, look at you! You too have
delivery service.
A person that look at how.
Uber.
Sexy little thing. There we go. There it is. Spark.
How is everything?
Good. Well, not good because my studio is leaking from the rain. Oh, no. And like I had to move my desk and stuff away. I'm sitting in a different spot. It's not dripping as much right now, but it needs repairs. Like this just started to happen 10 minutes before we started recording.
Oh,
so
gracious.
I'm a little nervous. Yeah.
We just went to our last back to school night at elementary, and I'm all up in my feels.
Oh, wow. Okay.
James's last year of elementary school this year.
My heart.
Oh, I remember. So it's still called elementary school? Because that's what I remember it to be.
Here it is, up until 6th grade. And then 7th grade is junior high. 7th and 8th are junior, and 9, 10, 11, 12 are senior high school.
Yeah.
That was on Long Island, but here it's middle school is 6th to 8th.
Yeah, most places do it that way. Just for some reason, the elementary he goes to, and then he's gifted, and all of his classes are advanced. So he's going to be doing a lot of virtual at school because he's just not ready to be thrown in with the big dog yet, you know.
Sure.
He's also like.
I'm gonna go finish eating.
Okay, Michelle called him like he should be the principal of the elementary school. That's how popular he is.
Oh, awesome.
But yeah, I apologize for interrupting. Dinner.
No.
Son was very good at that. He was he tended to be very popular when he was young, and crossed a lot of areas between the smart kids and
Yeah.
you know, he was good at socializing across the board and still is, even as a grown up now that he's in his.
How many kids do you have, Dan?
I have two. I have a boy who is now 37.
Wow.
A girl who is 34. And she went to film school. Actually, she went to Wesleyan for film school, and ended up not going into film. She wanted to write, but she's not a natural schmoozer. So she's now a lawyer. She went back to school at Fordham and became a lawyer, and she works in an entertainment law firm and as an associate now. She worked there worked from secretary to personal assistant to office director. I'm very proud of her. She was a director coming out of film school, but she was office director, and now she's an associate there. And she's incredibly. Both my kids are smart and very determined.
Does she like the new job, like transitioning from film to being a lawyer, an entertainment lawyer?
In film, she never worked in film, but she really liked being there. Being at Wesleyan, you know, at least that was a place where she might have had the opportunity to make connections, because she was. I know I met the head of the film department there, who spoke very highly of my daughter. But again, you know, she still loves film, and we still talk about it all the time.
Sure.
Because I was actually.
I was going to say I've noticed more often than not that, like, people who go to college and you study something for 4 years, and by the time you're leaving college to go into the real world, you know, to get the job and the thing you studied, half the people don't want to do the thing they just studied anymore because they realize they didn't want to do that. Or maybe, you know, they don't always prepare you in your senior year to deal with the business of the art form that you enjoy. And by the way, that business changes now. It used to change like maybe every 10, 15 years. Now it's changing every 6 minutes. So it's like, how is anybody supposed to keep up, you know, and figure out how to advise you, a young creator going out there to hit the pavement and to schmooze and to have dialogue? What do you do? Where do you go anymore? You know, like, I feel like I just read somewhere that SVA, the School of Visual Arts, and I meant to talk to Josh Schufeld or Mike Caballero or Nick Bertozzi or any number of people I know who teach there. Apparently, they're having a really tough time with enrollment because now they're realizing, a lot of people, that you spend a lot of money to learn how to do comics, and then you get out of college and, like, where do you make comics? And everybody has to learn how to make their own comics, you know? And I have a whole kind of thought about that I was kind of ranting and raving a little bit with our buddy Chris Miskevich over text, which we'll get into a little later in some of our topics. But yeah, I totally get that.
I wanted to ask Dan a question though, like, from just talking to you before we started the recording and like now, comics seem to have been, especially like newspaper comics, you know, were your introduction, but like comics have been so part of your biography, you know, like just your autobiography, I should say. Did that, because it seems like it could have passed down to your daughter with the creative side of making film. Did any of that trickle down to them?
My kids ended up following majors that I almost went to in college. Okay. I was experimenting in the cinema department at Binghamton when I was there. So I ended up crossing paths with a lot of people who were involved in the comics field. And that's actually where I got introduced to comic books.
Got it.
I took a class in the cinema department called Comic Book Art, which was taught by a TA in the film department. And there I was introduced to the spirit. And that changed my life. I'll be honest. Will Eisner changed everything for me. That, him, absolutely. Wally Wood, Bernie Krigstein, those guys. I had worked for years trying to understand how to look at art, how to even look at film. And those guys, reading their work, I started to see how you could interpret visual image. And
they're so cinematic too in the way they approached art.
Exactly. And that's when so in college, I started buying all of the reprints of Will Eisner's work, which meant I was calling up Kitchen Sink Press all the friggin' time. And it just kind of sprang. So my daughter was an English and film major, and I was a creative writing and lit major for the first 3.5 years of college. And thereby hangs a tale. I experimented in poli-sci, and my son was a poli-sci major, and he works in politics, in liberal politics specifically, and his wife works for the city council in New York.
Cool.
As an attorney. So they're both contributing to society as best they can. And me, in the middle of my junior year of college, I was on my third. I'm nearly done with my writing major, my English and writing major. I had studied with several successful writers, including Richard Price. And
what?
And
oh my God, his Clockers is unbelievable.
Yeah. Yes, but I have to say this was right after his first 2 novels, and I think he might have been having a little writer's block on his third. And he took the job teaching, perhaps to have a steady income while he figured it out. Mm-hmm. And there is a movie out there about a successful writer with writer's block taking a job at SUNY Binghamton to overcome his writer's block. And I have the sneaking suspicion was written by someone in my class.
Interesting. What's the name of the movie?
Oh God, what's his,
I mean, it's been produced and it's out, right?
It's out. It was what's the name of that movie?
When did it come out? Maybe I can try to
about
guess.
15 years ago. It's Chris Elliott was in it, and
Chris Elliott.
You
mean from David
Letterman? He wasn't the star. He was the sidekick. What's her name? I'm really blocking on actors. This is what my neighbor calls half-heimers.
Oh, I have the same thing.
It was it was, but I'm pretty sure it was written by a classmate of mine because it's so clearly based on the experience we had.
But it almost sounds like a Woody Allen movie or something.
It is. It starred that English actor who he was in Love Actually, and
I don't watch movies called that.
Actually,
he was a successful actor. He was. He ended up going through a period of being canceled because he got connected with prostitutes at some point.
Hugh Grant,
so Hugh Grant as the teacher in it, and some of it was filmed in Binghamton, and some of it was not. Knowing Binghamton very well, I found that very amusing. And then my third writing, but going past that, my last writing teacher was John Gardner, who wrote Grendel and Octoberlight. One of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my life. Wow. A guy whose writing is incredible. I consider some of his books some of the favorites I've ever read. He was an amazing teacher who could explain what he was doing and how to talk about writing. Very strong opinions, pissing off a lot of people.
Can you tell me what era? I know it might age you, but what years are we talking about?
I went to college in 76, so this would have been 79, 80, my fourth year of college, when I had him for a teacher.
Did you have William Shakespeare as a teacher?
Yeah, not quite that old, but John pulled me aside after class one day and said, "Dan, seriously, is this what you're best at?"
Oh, damn.
Now, what does that sound like, Dean?
Well, no, I understood. And truthfully, what was funny is that semester, for the hell of it, I had signed up for Calc 3. I'm sure something both of you naturally were gravitated to calculus in college.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's gibberish to me.
Yes, but I found it ridiculously easy.
Wow.
And which I don't mean to brag. I just mean to say it was kind of just came to me. And so John asking me that actually said, okay, well, I am better at something else.
See?
So I ended up having a career as an actuary, doing economic modeling for insurance companies. And I had a good living. It wasn't the most exciting thing I could have done in my life, but I earned a good living. But I supported the ability to go to comic book shows and
do you ever I don't want to say do you have a creative outlet, but do you ever like try to, or have you tried in the years since to try to do something with the creative writing background, or have you just
I think I tell stories.
Perfect.
You know,
We
if you haven't detected already, many of my stories feel, you know, the structure of them is kind of formed, and I can tell them in a way where I can deliver them. And I've several years ago, I actually ended up having a personal event, and I've told you this story, Dean, that I went down into Florida to help my father when he had a heart attack. And while I was taking him to doctor's appointments, I realized I was in the same town as Will Eisner's studio.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked up the address and it was there. So I drove to it while I was waiting for my father. And I went in and I ended up sitting down with Will Eisner for about a half an hour. He invited me in and talked with me in the studio. And then after about a half an hour of showing me, he had just gotten his proofs for the plot, and he was, and we talked about lots of different artists. We talked about Frank Miller. We talked about blankets. We talked about a lot of different books. And then about a half an hour after we started, he got out a copy of the Spirit Archives, Volume 12, and said, "I don't want you to leave empty-handed." Now, I'm not stupid. I can take a hint. That means, but I want you to leave.
Yeah.
So I took it and left, and he died about a month later, actually, when he passed away. So I wrote this experience, and it was an amazing experience for me because it was one of the first times I had ever met someone I really saw as a superstar and had a conversation.
Wow, that's incredible.
And so I wrote this.
Did you ever meet Jack Kirby?
No, I did not. That was he was gone before I guess I was into comics as deeply.
Okay.
I always forget that I met Joe Simon, like in his studio.
Oh, that's cool.
And
you did?
Yeah, I like Steve Saffel, who's a mutual friend of ours. Yeah. He just came over to Jim Hanley's Universe one day, and he said, "Hey, I got to go over to Joe Simon's. Do you want to come with me?" I was like, "Sure." So we just walked up to his studio. I sat there. I think we were there for about 45 minutes. He did he signed a Sandman Archives, I think, no, one of the two. Like, I think it was Sandman Sandy Archives, the DC Archives for me. I still have. I always forget that I did. And like, he was so. It was years before he passed, but like, he was so gregarious and so like giving of his time. Like he probably, and I wouldn't say that he was a lonely person, because like, it wasn't like he didn't want us to leave or anything. It was just that he probably could have entertained for hours, you know, like just that's.
I think that's true for a lot of creators and cartoonists. Like, you're so stuck and isolated in your work.
Right.
In fact, I saw something yesterday that kind of freaked me out a little bit, because I kind of disagreed. I think there's a new Sylvester Stallone movie coming out, a documentary. And he talks about how he didn't go to parties. He didn't go meet and greet a lot of people, because it would take away the time for him to create and to think about what he needed to. So he isolated himself a lot. And I thought, no, it's the other way around, you know, at least for me. Like, I need to take in stories from experiences, you know. I don't want to go and just make them up. And which is weird, because Sylvester Stallone does write human experiences when he writes, you know, Rocky, Rambo, you know, and the movies he's been in a lot are very human, you know. So it's odd to me, like, what are you accessing when you're sitting alone by yourself all day long?
I mean, I can relate to that though. Like you know me, I'm not a big schmoozer, just like Dan's daughter. I'm not a big schmoozer. I mean, I've done.
But you're good at it, Vito.
I am. I'm a very good raconteur when I have to be, but I would always prefer, like, I don't want to go to a bar and like hang out, and then you forget the experience of hanging out with me. You know what I mean? Like, I used to get invited to Marvel parties a lot, especially after Marvel movie premieres, like in the early 2000s, like the X-Men and stuff like that. So I would go and I would hang out for like maybe an hour, and I'm not a big drinker. Never. I mean, I was at one point, like in college, but like at that point in my life, I would just have a beer, and just nurse it for about.
Oh, I remember you being like Mr. Irish Goodbye.
Yes.
Like suddenly Vito's gone. What happened?
Oh, what happened? But like I want us to both mutually benefit from our conversation. I don't want to go home thinking, oh, I might have just made a connection and now I might, have a chance at writing the Hulk or whatever. But then you're just like, you go home and you're just like passed out for a couple hours. You wake up hungover. You forget exactly who you saw. And like, I follow up with you and you're just like, I don't remember that conversation. That's not worth it to me.
Well, you matured early on. Like that to me is more of my MO, is trying to have a more, meaningful, parlay with, I mean, especially at 59, I don't have that much time to waste, I mean,
more than you think.
I don't know. Dan, what about you? When you met Eisner, was that the peak of your comic book mountain, or have you met other really cool creators?
Well, I've met you.
Oh.
No, well, yes, but no, for me, well, it's funny. You talked about Sylvester Stallone. I wanted to backtrack to that because you talked about Rocky, and he should have gone out and schmoozed more because he really knew how to write how working people talked. He did not know how to talk about how people with money and business talked. And those conversations in the offices with Apollo Creed and the managers come out looking so phony and funny compared to how well he portrays the characters in Philly. And it's one of those things that shows a strength in his writing and a deep weakness in his writing in that.
Right.
So the movie's wonderful, and he is obviously wonderful in it.
Well, he gets to the heart, right, of the story. And I think he wrote that famously in 3 days and then insisted that he had to act in it, which was part of, like, I think he was talking about part of what made his success was his monofixation. It was his ability to just laser focus and say, no, only me, because he understood he would get lost otherwise. And he's a unique, peculiar kind of guy, we come to love the guy, and if he's going to write cartoon, business, versions of people, it's a shorthand. At the end of the day, it's funny whenever I see like comics that are, show a cartoonist in a movie. Hell, it happened in Bored to Death with Zach Galifianakis, who played a character named Ray Houston that I did all the artwork for in Bored to Death, HBO show that Jonathan Ames created. And I remember going on set and they were shooting a scene with Zach Galifianakis drawing at his art table, but he had taken a towel and made a cape for it. And I was like, that has never happened ever. Yeah. And it's not even funny. All right. You think you're funny? That's not funny.
So now you're being exactly, one of the things I hear is when people try to watch a series and some minor error pisses them off that they can't watch it.
I know, and that's what's funny is, like, of course, I'm the comic book guy, so I'm going to be very persnickety about how comics are represented, versus. And then I remember, what was that? Ted Grant, is that the actor from Mary Tyler Moore?
Oh, Lou Grant is the character in that. Was
no, not Lou Grant.
Ted Baxter.
Ted Baxter, and then he went on to do a show where he was a cartoonist, but he drew with a puppet version of the character in his hand holding a pencil. I was like, that's not, again,
Too Close for Comfort, I think it was called.
Is that what it was? Something like that?
Bob Newhart did a sitcom where he
I have it
too. But that, Too Close for Comfort was the Ted Knight one.
The problem with the Bob Newhart one is that it was pretty close. They just didn't really get it right, but it was closer than it had gotten before that. In fact, I met the showrunner of that season. And then after comics for that, I forget the name of the show that Bob Newhart did as a cartoonist, but then season 2, they abandoned him being a cartoonist and he became like what do you call it? A greeting card artist instead. It was a little bit easier.
So it was
but if you see that, right. Then he became our Crumb, right? He became underground cartoonist.
Greeting cards.
That would be amazing if they had done that. No, but the first season they did little convention stuff. I mean, I think
Kirby's
Jim Lee and the Image guys are there. Who?
Isn't Kirby in one of the episodes?
I feel like Kirby might have was winning an award at some comic show, and Jim Lee, I think, is in there with some of the other young guns, and and then there's that horror movie with Eric Roberts the ambulance, where he's a cartoon, and Stan Lee is his publisher, and I think Larry Hama is there, and some other guy. Anyway, it's always funny to see that. You know,
I like
and
the
they had a
Chasing Amy
bullpen.
comic artist played by Matt Damon and
that's right.
Amy. You know, you're an inker. What do you mean? You just trace?
Yeah, I know. That was the famous line, and that pissed off so many inkers. It pissed off everybody.
Yeah.
You know.
Meanwhile, Palmiotti's in the movie.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
he could have said something. Should have said something, Jimmy. So then, who are other or what's your favorite piece of art that you own in comics art?
Looking at it,
My
look at him.
favorite. I have a lot of. It's hard to put art in categories. Like my very favorites would be. I have a Charles Addams painting that I
shut up.
I have one original Cat's Crazy Cat Sunday color one.
Crazy.
I have Colleen Durant did this amazing commission for me of Wonder Woman that came out so well. She actually prints a poster of it and sells it at conventions.
Sure.
And
well, you had me do a commission.
And you did one that you did very well.
Yeah. I did a Red Hook for you that I like so much that I have done a little print of it. I haven't sold much of them. I think I made like 5 or 10 copies, but it's also, I'm using it for a potential pitch for like if we were able to turn the Red Hook into an animation or a movie. Okay. I'm using it as like the cover piece to my pitch, you know. So nice. I thank you for that.
And then actually I have what Kyle Baker's family thought of as his best work, which was a cover he did for Superman versus the Klan, with him Superman flying, carrying a bunch of children with him in flight.
Yep.
That painting he did that I ended up buying that at Heritage. And then when Dennis Kitchen was selling some of his things through Heritage, I opened my wallet wider than I should have.
Oh boy. You know, you just said Heritage. You just said Heritage, and George Foles, who listens to our show and weighs in constantly, just texted me. I don't know if you can see this because it's all. No. He just texted, said heading to a Heritage Gallery show, and then he was going to report back, and then he sent me just while we've been talking. He went, "'Twas a few jewels in the mix. That Harvey Kurtzman is for Vito." And then he's showing me. Oh, that's what it is. I don't know if you can see this. Frontline combat.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, wow.
That's one piece. Then he sent me. Who's the other one?
Those are the big price range.
The thing he was teasing me with was that they were going to have a Frank Miller Daredevil Klaus Janson page. Yeah. It's hard to see. Sorry, I know it's
it just got.
And then finally, a romance comic. Oh, Young Love. Wow. And he said how the inks were turning purple. Oh, shoot. Hold on.
Oh, I can see. Yeah.
How beautiful is that?
Is that Carmine?
I wonder. Let me see what it says.
A lot of those are not always identified who the artist was on the romance. I have a couple that were not known. You couldn't. It could be this person. It could be that person. Yeah.
I have
my favorite things is when I go to comic book shows is seeing who do I talk to, whose work do I like, whose work attracts me in a room. The first MoCA I went to is I was pretty ignorant of almost anything on the alternative side except whatever I had gotten from Dennis Kitchen over the years, and I met Kim Deitch at the first one, and I just fell in love with Boulevard. And Boulevard of Broken Dreams, one of the most fantastic graphic novels I've ever seen. Because I love animation, that just blew me away. And I've struck up a friendship with him over the years, and he is a really interesting guy and a hard worker. You know, he still gets up and does 9 to 5 every day to work on his next book.
I just bought his recent graphic novel, Kim Deitch.
Comics.
It's about comics, about his what's it called?
How I Make Comics, I think.
How I Make Comics. That's right.
Yes, and but it's every time I go, I meet someone new. That's how I discovered you. I mean, I guess I had already read The Quitter at that point, which you had done with Harvey Picar. But that's I met you at the conventions. I kind of discovered artists. Some of them went on to be more successful than others, but that's part of the fun. Is seeing what appeals to me around the room. And Vito, I saw that you did a book with Andres Vera Martinez, who did a sketch for me at one of the MoCA. He did this Japanese village. He spent hours on it for $30, which was ridiculous.
Yeah, he's so good. It's funny. I have a piece of art. I was thinking about it when you were talking about yours. I have a piece of original art from Mad Magazine. It's a Dave Berg piece. It's the lighter side of, and I don't know why I own it. It's such a dopey piece of artwork, and I forget the punchline. It was basically like a kid asking why his dad's up so early, and he's like, "Cause I gotta, wake up and go to work and stuff." And then the kid's like, "Oh, that's what you call work, or something like that." And the kid's like really sarcastic or whatever. But
that's like a Dave Berg strip, isn't it?
Only a Dave Berg strip.
Like those are the strips I skipped when I got the magazine. Like those are the ones I didn't read. There
was one he did that I regret. The original came up on eBay several years ago, and it had been my favorite Dave Berg strip for a bunch of reasons, especially because it had a teenage boy who looked exactly like what I looked like when I was 16.
Right.
And he's bitching to his, he's sitting in his room saying, Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am. So here I am thinking, but am I? Could I be a figment of someone else's dream? Maybe I don't even exist." And a voice from outside, "Billy, are you upstairs?" He shouts down, "How the hell should I know?"
That's great.
That one. That was always my favorite. Now it was like $100, and I should have gotten it because
they're so good. The reason why I got into Dave Berg, it's so dumb. Because I'm like you, Dean. I used to just skip it just to try to find the Spy versus Spy, and then the Aragones little things in the borders.
Running around the borders.
What got me into it was one day at Jim Hamley's Universe, I'm reading one of the Mad Bathroom Readers, and it was Gilbert Gottfried had done the introduction for one of them, and he said Dave Berg is like your unpopular uncle who like puts a mop over his head and goes, "I'm the Beatles, yeah." And just the visual of that I started crying. I was laughing so hard, like choking, and I was like, "Oh my god, this guy!" And so then I went through the book again to look at his strips specifically, and they're so like corny and dopey. Yeah. And then years later, like in I would say the last 15 years, maybe even a little bit more, they've actually had writers, this is brilliant, where they go back and they rewrite Dave Berg's strips, and it's called The Darker Side of the Lighter Side of. And so they take the same exact art and they just rewrite the dialogue, and it's brilliant. It's like that Garfield without Garfield.
That's pretty great.
I always liked the ones when he drew himself as Kaputnik, or he drew the boss Bill Gaines. Like those are actually the originals I wanted. I wanted a picture of Bill Gaines, and I wanted a picture of Dave Berg, and those are the cool ones for me.
Yeah.
But I grew up. One of my best friend growing up was a kid named Alan Meglin, whose uncle was Nick Meglin, associate editor.
Oh yeah, all right.
So we would read Mad Magazine together. That was, among all my friends, that was Mad Magazine was particularly, that was the influence for us as, at 10 to 15-year-olds is, learning not to take shit seriously.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I'm trying to remember what original art I own. I have a Jack Kirby page I got for like $200.
Nice.
Years ago, like maybe 30 years ago. It's a Devil Dinosaur page, but Devil Dinosaur nor Moon Boy is on the page, but it's an awesome page.
That's why it was $200.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, but it's incredible, and I could dig it up. I have a couple of original Ron Wilson drawings, but not any like Marvel 2-in-1 pages.
Yeah.
And I have somebody, I think it was Jeff Parker. Somebody sent me like Alex Toth would just do sketches on little pieces of paper. So I have like a couple of Alex Toth sketches on one piece of paper.
Yeah, he did on regular 8.5 by 11,
something like that.
Paper.
Exactly, just like him, just whipping out something with the, you know, like a felt tip pen, you know, kind of a thing. Probably turning brown already, you know.
A lot of wood stuff is like that too.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm trying to think. I might have a few other pieces of art. When I did my first Billy Dogma collection called Daydream Lullabies, I actually was bold and brave enough to ask Chaikin and Simonson and some other artists to do sketches of Billy Dogma, and they did for free. And so I have that original art. A guy named Steve Weissman. Do you remember Steve Weissman? He did a comic called Yikes.
Yeah, I love that comic.
That was awesome. Talk about peanuts. He was like, I felt like he was, you know, a herald of Charles Schultz. And so
there's like Little Fireman too. He did something.
Yeah. Little Fireman. Yeah.
I loved his work.
Yeah, his stuff was great. I missed that. Those are the old SPX days. But yeah, and I'm sure I have a few others. I've never been able to really afford original art or go out of my way. And it's funny because whenever I go to a comic convention, if I'm not going to a specific table or perusing Artist Alley, I don't really care about going to like publisher and all that. Like, sure, if I know someone, but what freaks me out is the incredible original art that's hanging all over the place, and the amount of work that went into that original art just so it could be disposable, you know, basically.
Oh yeah.
I think that's the wrong way to look at it, though, Dean. I think, you know, the person.
No, I don't mean that they were intending it to be disposable, but like they didn't realize it would be hanging, you know, on a wall in a museum or something, you know, or
well, I mean,
being sold.
The idea that I think, you know, at least, you know, keeps me like sane at night is, all right, they got paid for it. You know, there are some exceptions, obviously, like Kirby's missing pages and Ditko's, I'm sure. But like current artists, for example, I own a page from New Frontier.
Wow.
That is what I wanted was and I contacted Albert Moy, who's the art dealer for Darwin at the time. Probably still has some Darwin pages, but I said, what I'm looking for is the page where Ted Grant is like this, you know, he just beat Cassius Clay and like it's like a splash page. And it's, you know, just Ted in the ring. He's like, no, Darwin kept that one. And I was like, all right, I'll take the next page. And it's the page where they're celebrating Catwoman's kissing Wildcat on the cheek. They're all out of costume, which is why it was affordable. But like, so you know, the thing that helps me rest at night is to know that Darwin got paid by DC to do it. Albert probably bought it from Darwin, you know, at a cost or whatever, you know, whatever, and like doubled the price, you know, to sell it. And then I bought it, and now it's not going to get sold from me. You know, like Darwin's one of my buddies, you know, like he was also one of my favorite artists, you know, like he would definitely be on this week's Mount Sinai of superhero comic book artists, you know.
Definitely. I would agree. Darwin, I was talking with someone about the Parker books yesterday, someone who doesn't read comics. And I said, you should see the graphic novel adaptations of the Parker books. They're just incredible. This guy.
I remember having an out-of-body experience with Darwin because I think it was the year that I was hawking. It was the year, well, not necessarily, but Cuba My Revolution had already come out, and I had drawn that. And he comes up to me, and I'm sitting, maybe it was a DC table or something, and we're hanging out talking, and he just starts praising me for the work I did on Cuba, and I didn't understand what I was hearing. Like, there's no way, you know, like I'm nowhere near like the brilliance of how he can. I realize that comics is an art of elimination. I used to say reduction. No, it's eliminating. It's eliminating unnecessary things, you know, at the best of its ability, you know. And I understand that there are a lot of artists that like to what I would call over render, you know, and that's because maybe that's what I can't do, or I can't do it well. I was having a little text parlay with the filmmaker Owner Tukel, who's an artist as well. And he was asking me what was the best pens to do cross hatching. I was like, dude, have you seen my art? what do you mean cross hatching? You know, like, because he was using these really thin pens, and I was like, first of all, and I understood he wanted some thicker pens so that maybe he could, because he felt like the thin pen was just too light, and was all he could do was cross hatch. So he wanted something bolder. So I explained to him like that Simonson had turned me on to Tombow pens, and then there was jet pens, you know, as well, and obviously microns and rapidographs. But you know, I use microns just for straight lines, you know. And then I said to him, look at Alex Toth. So I started sending him like these drawings of Alex Toth, and he was just gobsmacked, you know. So yeah, for me, it is the art of elimination. That's what comics do best, I think.
Dan, do you have an art, not an artist, but like, do you have an art style that when you're looking at original artwork or getting a sketch or something like that, that when you see it, you're like, that speaks to my aesthetics, that speaks to my likes and dislikes. Like, this is something like we were talking about Dan Berg a few minutes ago, how you're like, oh, I should have bought that, you know, like, but is there some something that like you kind of...
I definitely am attracted first to the most precise artists, people like Chris Ware or Dave Gibbons, who draw very precise, you know, architectural to them.
Could you see can you see the math in their art? It almost can be mathematical.
Well, I like the detail, provided it's not over-rendered. For instance, I'm not attracted to Prince Valiant. I find that over-rendered, but because that's a nice painting. But I'll go see Thomas Cole to see something like that. In comic art, at the other extreme, though, I like the people who can be a little wild and out of there, like Evan Dorkin, who will be, or someone who can do a lot with very little, like Will Eisner, you know. That his work is, you know, he knew when to be cartoony and what to do realistically. So it is, and I do go across the board. I mean, my first attraction is to the most precise, and admittedly, something like The Watchmen really appealed to me because of its very precise style. Scott McCloud's work. I was really amazed when I met him. I said, I can see your eyes.
He'd never heard that before.
No, he never did. I'm sure that was the Forbidden Planet. No, that wasn't Forbidden Planet. That was at Midtown Comics. He did years ago appearance for one of his reinventing comics, I think.
Sure, reinventing sounds.
But he's someone who, again, his very clean and precise work appeals to me. But people who can be wild and still make it feel like it's in control.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
Peter Bagg is good at that.
Yeah.
Bill Sienkiewicz, I feel like, is so brilliant at looking at it's so spontaneous looking, yet it's his not ability, of course, is an ability, but like, and not desire, but like just allowing himself to go freehand, freestyle, and let that be the marks, be the finish. Whereas other people might go in and try to fix something. There's nothing to fix in a Bill Sienkiewicz drawing.
No, I agree. His works are like amazing.
Deliberate accidents happening all over the place, you know, and yet there's a control because it arrives at a picture that makes sense, and it's something that you've never seen before, you know.
Well, I loved his biography of Hendrix that he did. I do have a sketch of Hendrix that he did for me that's amazing, and he is.
Well, Chaikin's very calculating and very controlled.
Yes.
You know,
that's a. Oh, you were also talking about comic book artists who get very talkative when they get into shows.
Oh yeah, that's
and Howard. He is definitely someone who is looking forward to talking to someone when he gets out away from work.
Absolutely.
Between Broadway shows.
When I started scripting, I learned from reading these seminars that Kurt Busiek did at a college that someone had put up on a message board, like early on in the internet. And as I started learning more about writing and kind of getting into styles and stuff, I found out that there was two guys that are like the opposite of each other. And one is Alan Moore. Alan Moore is, talking like his one page of a script is one panel, which is, you know, verbose, descriptive, etc. Then there's Jeff Loeb, who would just go panel 1, Spider-Man punches somebody, you know, like, so you had like terse and you had verbose. And then there's Howard Chaykin, who I don't know that I've never read a Howard script. I don't know that Howard actually does the scripting. Probably does, I would imagine. What's up?
I can tell you because I watched and I was this is one of the things that freaked me out the most. Between this and Bill Sienkiewicz trying to find something to finish painting or inking, I think it was Electro Assassin or New Mutants, I can't remember. And he looked at his rolled up tea bag and pulled it out and started dabbing it onto the page to get a certain, I was like, what is happening right now? Like, and I just watched him find something to work with. The other one was, I remember take an 8.5 by 11 piece of typewriter paper, turn it landscape, and I saw him hunched over and he had made, I want to say it was probably 20 squares, basically, but tall squares. And I realized he was paginating and plotting out a whole issue of American flag on one piece of paper. You know, like with the beats or whatever, not necessarily the drawings or stick figures, but this is what happens here on this page, just breaking it down. And I had never seen that before. And I was like, that's not how you make comics. What's happening here? Like, you know, but everyone has their own way.
He's such a good storyteller in person. And like when you're in the room with him and, you know, like, and, you know, sometimes he's a little off color. You know, sometimes he breaks out into song. That's Howard at this point.
That's why you're there.
But the thing is, he's like such a good storyteller that you would imagine that there would be either extreme discipline in how he tells a story or extreme looseness, where it's just, let's fly by the, you know what I mean? Like it's just a natural thing. It doesn't have to be put on a page word for word. You know what I mean?
But isn't that the trick for everybody, that it just looks easy when the finished product just looks like, oh, it just came out that way? No, it is often it's a huge struggle. It's a very rare that like someone like Sylvester Stallone can write Rocky in 3 days, or at least the basis of Rocky in 3 days, you know, and then just be able to spit it out like that from his heart, you know, like, and I have definitely, it's weird. I don't know about this happening to you, Vito, and even you, Dan, but like, there were some things that literally just came out and I didn't have to change anything, you know?
I think that happens less as I kind of grow to, like, I've learned to love the discipline of writing, which sounds weird, I think, because I'm one of those people that gets hung up on formatting, not so much for a comic book, but for novels and prose. I get caught up in, well, is this how a book looks? Is this the way it's supposed to be? When I should just write it and not worry about it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But there are some times where like I'll hit a piece of dialogue and I'll just say to myself, oh, I wonder, like, and I'll start lettering. This is where it's coming from. I'll write it and I'll start lettering and I'll just start editing things and stuff, and, you know, like adding words to a panel that, for example, in Pay the Devil, I just finished lettering it and getting the files ready for a print, you know, a couple weeks ago. And there were pages that didn't have dialogue or anything on it. And it was because of the way I scripted it. It was meant to be more or less quiet or whatever. And then I would go and this probably needs something. And then just the restraint and the knowledge of knowing, no, that's perfect. That says everything right there. I don't need to put anything. Mm-hmm. And then like another panel, contextually, it needed something, and like it had something, but I had to expand on it because it was just, I don't think it tells the reader enough. So like, again,
it's a balance. It's a dance. It's a balance. There's a filmmaker that I mentioned a few shows ago, I think, whose name escapes me, but he did The Triangle of Sadness, The Square, and Force Majeure. And I noticed one trick in watching the 3 movies in 1 week one of the things he does that he trends with is they'll have a scene happening, but he adds another element that's invading the scene or distracting it, but actually it's helping elevate it, or it's helping make it funnier or more dramatic. And I was like, this guy is always doing this. Now I'm noticing it, you know, and it works well. But it's funny when you can identify a trick, you know, like I've identified a lot of tricks that Chaykin does, obviously studying under him, you know, so I know I can predict how he's going to do at least a page layout, you know. And yeah, it's funny, like, and it's fun. I guess, are there writers that still surprise me that I've been reading for years and years and years, and as much as you can like them, are they surprising you? I would say, and here we go, mention him again, Mark Waid surprises me as a writer.
Yeah. I mean,
you know why? Because
we learned his trick, and it still surprises us.
It's true. You know what I mean? Dan, Mark Waid
said
listen
to that. I did watch that podcast, actually.
You did. And
I was intrigued by that.
Yeah, he says that he's building the plane while flying it, you know. But the other thing he's doing is he's trying to understand the coda, the premise of the character, the history and legacy, and trying to honor that with what he does, what he adds to it.
Yeah, he distills the character down to like its most essential, and he honors that with like I think he was talking about Batman and Robin when he was doing the 12-issue series with Chris Samnee, how he just, what are the core principles? What are the, like, that we go back to the origin, you know, what do we know about Batman? What is Batman? It's based on core principles. And I think he approaches all of his work like that. I think he, you know, admitted as such. It's not always easy because, you know, 80-something years of continuity is tough to distill sometimes.
It's impossible.
It is. We have to decide where you see the characters. It's funny. I love the absurd Facebook arguments about the Snyderverse versus the Gunverse, and it's like, why are people arguing about this? It's like,
because there's only one way, Dan. There's only one way, and it's my way.
See, I happen to like the take on Superman in the last movie only because I always saw Superman as a nice guy. I mean, the Snyderverse Superman, that's not the kid that was raised by the Kents. They raised a good man, not a guy who's blowing off steam and beating the hell out of people for no reason.
Well, it is a different take, and I enjoyed the James Gunn version. I enjoy all the versions. You know why? I'll tell you why.
It is all comic book. Let me also say that I don't have a problem with reinterpreting. I'm not, you know, I was perfectly happy with the Kelvin trilogy of the Star Trek movies.
Me too.
They're totally different universe. But I also love how the new series is consistent with canon. Right.
It's funny because there was an ad I saw yesterday, and I was just going to say real quick, I don't have a real hot take on Superman, so that's the other thing. Like, I'll check out whatever Superman you throw at me. Although my favorite Superman comic is the All-Star Superman 12 issues by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. I think that's perfection.
Oh, well, Frank Quitely is
I was going to say, does he fit into your precise person? Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, he's definitely precise. But wait, what was I just saying? Oh, I saw apparently they're bringing back, who played Anakin Skywalker, the teenage years?
Hayden Christensen?
Hayden Christensen. Apparently, and the way they wrote it was that Hayden Christensen is being tapped to play Darth Vader in a new Star Wars universe story. I'm like, where else would Darth Vader be but in a Star Wars story, you know? Like, although now what with Marvel, maybe they have to qualify it as a Star Wars story, you know?
Well, you know, they used to have crossovers with the Marvel and DC universe. I watched the first episode of Barnaby Jones just this week, and Canon appears on it.
There you go. As Canon?
Yes, that was Quinn Martin.
But is it Canon?
Yes, he is Canon. Yeah, Conrad is definitely Canon, but
it's Canon.
And it was okay with Canon. One of the things that struck me as a kid, I always liked the theme to the show Barnaby Jones after Hawaii Five-0 and a few of the other great ones. I always thought that was one of the better themes. Turned out to be written by Jerry Goldsmith.
Wow.
Hey. So I went, no wonder I like it.
Of course. I discovered a show that I kind of remembered as a kid because it was way past my time, even as a kid. Because remember, I grew up thinking those Star Trek episodes were new. They were reruns, you know, and so were the Honeymooners and everything else, of course, you know. So
Yeah.
Batman 66, those are reruns for me. But there was a show I discovered called Hazel. Do you remember a show called Hazel?
Of course, yes.
Sounds familiar.
It's
I don't
Based on the comic strip.
Oh, it's really?
What was it?
Yes, Hazel is a comic strip. I have a couple originals.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
I think a cartoon, not a comic strip, single frame.
Okay, got it. All right. So before we get into hot topics, I want to cover, you know, your sensibilities as well. If you had your druthers, and whether you were writing or drawing it or you were producing it, meaning hiring, casting, what series or comic book would you like to take over, a pre-existing series or comic book that you'd like to add your sensibilities to?
We asked the tough questions.
I would love the Spirit to be brought back properly. You know,
Okay.
I thought Frank Miller was much as Frank Miller is very talented, his work tends to lack the two things that I thought were primarily appeared in Will Eisner's, which was humor and humanity. And so, you know, I thought that's one of the reasons the Spirit movie failed so royally. While
I think he tried to be funny. He tried to be funny, and it was just corny, you know.
Yeah,
but I can see people doing a corny take on the Spirit. What do you think of Darwin Cook's Spirit?
oh, well, those are fantastic because he had respect for the characters and he understood to take it in a way where, you know, I mean, he really did have a sensibility that almost anything he did, you know, whether he took the Spirit or A New Frontier, he had a sense of that, both the drawing style and the characters had that motion and that humor to them. And even the TV version that ABC made, a pilot of the Spirit years ago with Nana Visitor was in it, who was in Deep Space Nine.
Sam J. Jones, Flash Gordon.
Thank you. That's who that was. Yes. But, you know, again, the Spirit is a little dated and there's a lot of things you really can't do with it. That probably.
But there's so much you can, and I understand people wanting the creator to, you know, be the auteur. But I do think that, you know, it's fun to have other takes, and that's just what it is. It's just another spin, you know. I actually just thought about two people that I would cast, but who would you cast to write and draw a new Spirit, you know, in 2027?
Like comic book?
Yeah, comic book.
Comic book. Well, obviously, it has to be some of the wicked sense of humor. You know who draws real well, who's a friend of mine, is Kevin Sacco. I think he draws people on the streets of New York better than most anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
He draws crowd scenes where everyone in the crowd is an individual behaving. I actually bought a few of his original pencil sketches because they're just, he does capture people on the street. And I think that he could capture the warmth and humor of the Spirit very well. As far as writing, before he got canceled, I might have said Joss Whedon.
That's a good answer.
Yeah,
that's a good answer.
It's interesting. I've introduced my children to a couple of people who've been canceled over the years because my children all met Neil Gaiman at some point too.
Sure.
But and two very talented people who it's a shame, you know. And I don't know what to think about that. But I'm not.
That's all right. You don't have to talk about
I'm
it here.
politically incorrect anyway.
I saw Joss Whedon at Mocha earlier this year and talked to him for a little while. So he was just walking around a fan. Cool. For some reason, what came to my mind, and it probably changed 5 minutes later, I would have the artist and the writer co-write based on who I'm choosing right now. But I was thinking Bob Burden and Matt Wagner.
Oh, hey, that's not bad.
I just pulled out my pages from Mad Monk, and I was just looking at some of his Batman and the Shadow pages I have, and they are credible. He has a good sense of both drama and comedy. He keeps a light touch on his work, which is very hard.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
simple.
And Bob
I
Burns
would
is
say
hysterical.
Wade and Somni on the Spirit would be a home
Oh
run.
yeah, Wade and Somni would be great.
And that's
I mean,
not
of
really
course.
thinking too hard. You know, if I were to think a little harder, I would probably say, writing wise, on a Spirit book. You make a good point about the writer and the artist having to plot it together. So it's probably better to just be one person. Probably a Matt Wagner. I would agree with that. If not,
well, Matt would bring the goofiness, the drama, the romance, the violence. But to me, again, I guess I haven't read too many Spirit comics, and that's a shame. But like, I like the idea. The reason why I threw Bob Bird in there is because it throws that flaming carrot like curveball into the mix. You know?
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
So, and I'm trying to think of an auteur that does all of that. Hell, I'd like to take a shot at doing a Spirit story, but I can't tell you what it is right now. You know?
Evan Dorkin has managed to do things that were more straightforward. What he did for the Superman story he did years ago, and I love Beasts of Burden, which was
Jill Thompson.
Yes, Beast of Burden is just such a good. I try to get people to read it by saying it's like Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets The Amazing Journey.
Wait, could you say that again? Because it got clogged up over here with the rain.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets The Amazing Journey.
Oh, that's awesome.
I just love those stories. It's really well drawn, and even they had the one that Nola wrote with Hellboy in it.
Yeah, put it in your free library.
I do.
There we go.
And I do have 2 pages from that one of the covers of that too that Jill did. I love her work on that too. And
yeah, I think Evan Dorkin is even though he's well known, he's also underrated. Like, that guy is like a Wade in that when he comes to understand a character, he has great takes on characters. You know, he really does. I mean, what was it? World's Funnest, it was called.
Yes.
That was so much. That was great. You know?
I like that he's his tours. He's actually on the 3rd printing of his current book, his compendium, which I'm glad that
Eltingville, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's all of his work. It's like
it's all of his work. That's right. Yeah, it's incredible.
And it's good that I'm glad for him to be getting some more recognition. I mean, years ago I had him do a commission for me. He did a color commission, and he charged me much less than I think he should have, and I told him so after I paid him.
Right. Well, he beefed it up after that, I'm sure.
But he started putting things on eBay, and he started seeing the prices going much faster, which I'm happy with him when he does.
Sure.
So,
I didn't know if you wanted to talk about anything else in particular, Dan, but I have 3 bits of topics. I don't know, Vito, if you had any written down.
I don't have any.
I have one thing I want to say at the end, kind of, to cap off everything. But yeah, go ahead.
All right, Dan, you're good?
I am good.
Okay. I want to acknowledge.
Dan, we never asked Dan, what did he think of antimatter? I know he emailed us his answer.
Oh, right. Sure. Well,
antimatter is fun. It's I like the I like chest face. I like a stand-up comic who really kills, and that's and who's being attacked all the time. It's very.
I might use that line. I'd never thought of that. A stand-up comic that really kills. That's.
But he is. He's literally he's being heckled with machine guns and things.
Oh yeah.
Guns. So it's a tough life for a stand-up comic.
Yes, it is.
And it's certainly, you see the guys who made it in the life, how their health suffered, whether it be George Carlin or Richard Pryor, the pressure of doing that. I like chest face. I like that. I like the end of the world concept, because to me, there's nothing more cheerful than the REM song that pops to mind. I heard that in the supermarket yesterday. I found myself singing it while I was picking out ice cream.
There you go. Well, thank you. I'm glad, and thank you for supporting it. And I guess we hadn't said anything, but I just found out today, surprised, to find out that Antimatter got nominated for an Ignatz Award for Outstanding Comic. So I'm promoting that all day, and for the hopefully people will sign up to vote and vote for Antimatter plus the other cool comics that are listed on there.
So Antimatter's got a Ringo and an Ignatz nomination.
So no. Chest Faced has the Ringo because of the way they date their
gotcha.
Yeah.
I got my ballot right before I got on here, and I did vote for it.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. So yeah, Antimatter it's the different windows of time, and I guess with SPX, Small Press Expo, which hosts the Ignatz Awards, which by the way, I was at the origin of that conversation. It was me, Chris Orr, and Ed Brubaker were trying to come up with an idea of an award for SPX. And I think it was Ed that came up with the idea of the Ignatz, calling it the Ignatz. And then Chris Orr had to go and get the rights and blah, blah, blah. That's how that happened. And I have been nominated for Ignatz previously. And I don't think I'll win this one, but again, the nomination is the award for me in a lot of ways. And I am trying to figure out how to get to SPX. So I was jumping through hoops today. Hopefully that'll work out. It'll be fun. And yeah, so Chest Face has been nominated though for Best Short Story for the Ringos, which is 1 week after SPX. So it would be awesome to get 2 awards, but it's already great the nomination.
Yeah, I'm missing SPX this year. I'm scheduling hit on the wrong day of the week. I have to say it's on Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, is it?
You wouldn't think that. I guess there aren't any Jewish comic book artists.
There never was. It was always Italians.
Yes, I know.
It's just Italian.
The Seagulls, yes. The Siegel and Schuster, they were Italian.
That's a bummer.
But the vote also, I saw that Coin Op Books was one of the nominations.
Oh, yeah.
And you're talking about precise artwork.
Absolutely.
Appealing to me.
And they did the cover to Real Life Comics Only New York.
Yes.
The anthology that's dealing with printer stuff, and hopefully it'll be in comic shops at some point soon, but it'll also be in bookstores in 2027, which is, anyway, we'll have another discussion about that another time.
Yeah,
so
good.
I wanted to acknowledge that I think I met this guy, and forgive me if I haven't, but he just seemed so familiar. But were you going to mention this guy who passed away this week, Vito?
Who's that?
Guy named Dennis Knight. Do you know him?
No, I didn't know him.
So he was a guy that went to a lot of cons, I believe, and again, he seemed familiar. And I didn't even look up to see if he had backed, one of my comics. I just feel like I know this guy. But you meet so many people in comics, you know. So I think he's like, I looked him up, and he had posted something the night before on Facebook, and I don't know how he passed away, but rest in peace, Dennis Knight, who was a big comics fan. And then did we all get a chance to see the pilot to Lanterns?
I did.
Yeah, that's on my to-dos, but
are we allowed to talk about it, or because it'll be?
I don't panic.
Enjoy it.
I don't panic with spoilers, but you can save it for next week, and you two can have that conversation.
Let him enjoy the.
Yeah, let him enjoy, or we let him loose before we end the episode, and then we can just dive into that one little lantern.
Just cut him out of the show.
We'll just cut him out. We'll give him the boot, Well, also, I'm dealing with like some water stuff here, so I should probably end this soon anyway. But did you have? Why don't you say what you were going to say, Vito?
Well,
we'll say a friendly goodbye to Dan, and then we'll talk lanterns.
My thing that I had to bring up was that I was driving to work on Monday, and as I was in the car starting it up, I looked at Facebook, and I saw "Rest in Peace, Roman," and a picture of my cousin, and I was like, "Wait a minute, what are you talking about?" So I called my mother. She calls me back. She goes, "It wasn't not the right Roman, not the right person." So I'm like, all right, cool. So I go on to Facebook and I go, okay, everybody, not the right person, don't, and then somebody goes, oh, thank goodness. And then my sister calls me and she goes, yeah, it was him. I called, her friend is married to the person at the funeral home that runs the funeral home over here. She goes, it was him. And so I was like, I'm going to go find out by, getting in touch with my aunt. The point of this whole story, everyone watching, is do not go to Facebook for any kind of death information unless, I don't know. I don't know how else to find out information anymore these days.
That's how I found out about Tommy Lombardozzi. Like, I couldn't believe it,
But I just wanted to say a couple things about my cousin. He was an amazing, amazing guitarist. Like, when I was growing up, he and I grew up 2 houses away from each other over here in Pennsylvania in Fort City. And I felt like we were set up to be rivals of some kind for my uncle's attention, his father, my uncle. And, I kind of regret not getting to know him growing up because I feel like we were just set at odds for no reason, for the benefit of one person that's no longer here with us anyway. But I, when I started doing comics, he started kind of coming around to me and just being like, oh, I saw your stuff in the library, like it's really cool. So at least we had that, number one, like Dean always tells you, if your body's telling you something's wrong, listen to it, get it checked. We've talked about colonoscopies. We talked about other, health ailments on here. If you don't feel right, go get checked. He was notorious, according to his mom, for being like, it's all right, or it'll be fine, or not getting anything checked. Please, if you don't feel good, go get checked. Like,
was this sudden what happened?
Yeah. Without going into too much detail, Saturday night is when he supposedly passed, and he wasn't found until Monday, which kills me because that's number one, my nightmare after being buried alive. But like for his mom to find him 2 days later, just to me is just awful. But rest in peace, my cousin Dave. Love you. We'll see you soon.
May his memory be a blessing.
Oh boy. All right. Well, before we let Dan loose, I was sorry about your cousin Roman.
Yeah.
I have a note here, and then maybe y'all can weigh in real quick. This says comic store comics versus direct to customer comics. And I feel like those are 2 very different things happening these days. And what I mean by that is, let's say there are 2,500 comic shops in the United States, okay? And half the time you try to, as an independent creator, you try to solicit, a book, and maybe 200 orders come in. And you're like, why am I doing this for the retailer? And you're like, I'm not doing it for the retailer. And this has nothing to do against retailers. I understand it's really hard to curate a comic shop and what will sell and what you'll risk, monies on. So I realized that, I've been nominated for 2 awards right now, and that's because in 2023, I basically quit comics, at least mainstream comics, and I did dabble here and there, but I got so fed up trying to pitch and trying to work that I was like, let me just do my own comics for the joy of it rather than the job of it, and that's a luxury. And by the way, I am not rich. I'm living on the skin of my teeth, as you know.
His roof is leaking currently.
Ruth,
that's not on you, mind you. But.
No, I know. So, and I'm like, I realize, am I, with my current comics like Antimatter and Chestface, am I creating collector's items? That wasn't the intent. And I understand the other thing that helps a creator, an auteur that's not working within the system, is selling original art, which is a no-brainer, which I don't do as much as but I'm trying to rectify that. I like the idea of prints that you can remark so that there's something original on it, okay? And then, of course, whatever merchandise, et cetera. And I'm wondering if when people say to me, Dean, you haven't been to the comic shop, you don't have a book or anything with a spine on it in 5 or 6 years, you need to get back in the comic shop. And sure, maybe what I can do is do a little DINO universe that collects like 5 of the comics or something, and like reintroduces myself to the comics, community in the comic shop. But I don't know why. And I need someone to tell me why. And I understand it's like, and that's another thing. When I sell a comic for $15 at a table or online, I'm getting $15 and they're paying for shipping. Right. I'm not getting $15. You know, I mean, okay, we'll take away the $2 or $3 it costs per unit. So maybe I'm getting $12. I'm sorry to, well, I'm talking math here, so this should excite Dan. And of course, there's the cost of going and doing a show. And in my case, these days, I try my best, and I'm grateful whenever I'm asked to be a guest because it means they're covering table, hotel, and badge, right? And then so I'm paying usually like travel, you know, and it'd be a car with gas and tolls or something. So I know I got to get that money back before I'm making a profit. But I do wonder if there are two comic book ecosystems that are happening more and more than ever before. And you can call it the Kickstarter comic. We've dubbed it that before. But I do wonder about the idea of the direct customer versus the store that gets the speculation buy. You know, sure, there might be some people that will go to a store and pre-order when they hear about the book, or they're like, hey, I heard about this, do you have it? And I'm not totally convinced that a comic shop will do the job anymore of trying to sell new creative artists, you know? And I'm not throwing comic shops under the bus, but I'm just wondering.
Well, I think most comic shops are not going to be, you know, it depends on the market for specific ones. For instance, when I would say most comic book shops, probably not. You know, out in the suburbs, you know, you're going to get the 16-year-old kids are really coming in to play the games, the dice games at the tables there. They're not really there to read the comic books anymore. Most of the comic book shops around here is what I see is what the people who are there all the time, and what they have is going to be very limited. And, you know, they're going to buy a few of the main sellers and have too many back issues already that they don't know what to do with. Which is exactly why I have a comic book annex to my free library. Is what I'm doing with my back issues, is shoveling them out to the neighborhood.
That's right.
Every now and then a collector comes through and cleans it out.
So I don't know, and Vito, like, and I know you probably lean more toward wanting to get your comic in a comic shop, and I understand that because I feel like as a communication artist, we need to communicate our art, you know, like get it out there.
I think my leanings, like nowadays, are more the other way. It's not that, you know, I love comic stores for the sense of discovery that is inherent in a comic store. And when you walk into a comic store for the first time, whether it be your normal comic store or a new comic store in a new city or something like that, like I always try to find a comic store whenever I go somewhere. So I love the moment of discovery and just like seeing stuff that I've seen a million times, but you know, it's something about being in this place for the first time that I think I'm going to take a chance on that Daredevil trade or something like that. I think what has happened is Kickstarter is great for single issues. Comic stores are great for trade paperbacks because comic stores are now becoming less a specialty shop, and I think more of a bookstores are closing left and right. Like there's no Borders anymore. There's no what's the other one? Books A Million. I don't think exists anymore. A couple of different, you know, Barnes and Noble is the last one standing, I believe, other than like the local smaller bookstores, you know, independent bookstores. So I think that's what comic stores are going to end up being to survive. They have to sell books, meaning trade paperbacks, collectible card games like Magic Gathering, maybe your odd action figure here and there, like Mitch does at Forbidden Planet, and not Forbidden Planet, St. Mark's Comics. St. Mark's Comics, and JHU does, and Forbidden Planet does as well. Forbidden Planet actually has like a really good selection of Japanese import toys and stuff, you know. So, but it's a niche market, and that's why they're doing it. But I think more and more the way of the single issue comic is going to go out of stores and go direct to readers. I think that's how they order. You know, I think you take less of a risk ordering a trade paperback for $19.99 than you do $3.99 single issues.
Well, there are plenty of the artists who are doing the single issues on Kickstarter and continuing series, and I support a lot of them because I do find. I'll be honest, more than half the time it's the art that decides whether I'm going to, you know, that I see in the first image almost always decides if I'm going to look any further. or the name. You know, I mean, if Dennis, you know, there are now 3 current Kickstarters of Dennis Kitchen, and so it's hard not to say yes every time to him. But it's but a lot of the people are continuing series, and you know, I'll often choose the digital ones now. Of course, that means I have this library of thousands of comic books digitally now that reside in my hard drive and on Google Drive, and I don't read all of them. No, I unfortunately have discovered that when you buy a book, it doesn't come with the time to read it.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what you mean. I know what
Anybody
you mean.
can sell that, then they're going to make $1 billion.
That's right. That's right. Well, and I had one comment I wanted to make. Earlier, when we were talking, there was like thunder and lightning that happened. And when that happened, I looked at Dan's screen and his lights flickered. And I'm like, how far are we away from each other? I'm in Red Hook, Brooklyn.
And I'm a Peekskill.
So do we?
Raymond Bridge, about an hour and change away.
So that hour, I think we had this. That must have been a very strong lightning strike.
Well, we've definitely had power flashes regularly lately, and I'm on Con Ed, so I'm on the same company as you delivering it.
Exactly. So I just thought that was interesting. I was like, wow, we're like an hour or so away from each other, and we both got hit by the same lightning. That was fascinating. Anyway.
Hey, when you look up, you see the same moon, Dean.
We had a little inversion here a couple of years ago on the 3rd of July, which brought down like 40 trees on our street. And you could see where the lightning struck had hit all the trees. A lot of them weren't wind; it was taken down by lightning. Took down a lot of the trees.
That's nice.
I ended up spending the next day helping cut up trees to get people out of their driveways, and people had to walk through my yard because the street was closed in front of my house by electrical line that was down.
Well, I got to get to one of your barbecues. Another thing that Dan does is he hosts barbecues for cartoonists and friends.
Yes, I keep trying. I got one of my neighbors to finally come this year. Peter Cooper says he might come, and
nice.
And now I'm saying this publicly, so now he's probably under pressure now. He lives only about 20 minutes from here, so I'm trying to get him to come. But
we did look at Peekskill years ago, me and Jen, when we were like, can't afford to be in Brooklyn, which has now gotten more unaffordable, and really liked Peekskill. There was a really cool coffee shop. There was like artists getting, and I don't know, the train gets right there, and there's like all kinds of good food. It's cool over there. I like Peekskill.
And it's where Pee Wee Herman was born, and Mel Gibson.
Right.
There's a pair. Mel Gibson, his family moved him to Australia when he was 10 years old. But
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that.
Yellow Brick Road is here. Baum lived here, so there really is a Yellow Brick Road here in Peekskill.
Oh wow!
It's got cool, oddball things going on. In 1949, there was a riot against the Peekskill riots. In which,
really?
Yes.
That's what I think we found what you should write. You should write that book about all those weird places that your wife finds for like cartoonists, like the Marmaduke statue and stuff like that, like a tour guide for all that stuff, and then also for your area.
That would be cool.
I did do a pilgrimage to Santa Rosa, California, many years ago to visit the Schultz Library. That was a great pleasure.
Nice. Brought right back to Schultz. Here we go.
Yeah, well, I went there too to see the house from Shadow of a Doubt. Because Hitchcock is also high up on my list.
Oh yeah, he's one of the best. All right, Dan. Well, I think we're gonna give you the boot so we can talk lanterns, and then hopefully
okay, go talk lanterns without me. I will go la la
la la la la.
Yeah, this episode comes out on Monday, so you got until Monday.
You got until Monday.
Start watching. I'm going to be watching it. I'm a little behind. I still haven't even caught up with all the Marvel shit on Disney.
Yep.
I'm working my way through it slowly.
Wonder Man's great if you haven't seen it.
I liked that one a lot. That one
my
wife liked. Yeah, she doesn't like all of these, but
yeah.
And I'm definitely looking forward to Coyote versus Acme.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Looks really good.
That looks fun. Be well. Thank you for including me.
Thank you. Thanks for supporting our comics, Dan, and talking to us.
All right. And Vito, it is a pleasure meeting you.
Same here, Dan. Thank you.
Take care.
Alrighty.
Hey, look, we're on the right. I don't know if you can see it, but you're on your side with antimatter, and I'm on the stray side.
Oh, would you look at that? Oh, I just noticed now that you make that's great. I like that better than the COVID cop interior page because it got a little screwy looking. Here, this looks better.
Meanwhile, I'm just like if I stand up a certain way, I could actually have stray's legs.
You could totally.
Yeah.
No, the other way.
So
All right,
lanterns.
so lanterns.
What a show.
Do you like it?
I do. Let me say that up front. What I don't really, it's weird.
Oh, by the way, spoilers for everybody. We're going to talk about the show.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Hasn't watched it.
If you haven't seen Lanterns, okay.
I think the thing about it that it's so dark, like shot, but it's got like humor to it. Like it's got like Kyle Chandler, who plays Hal Jordan, is fantastic.
Yeah,
he's just the right amount of snarky.
Yeah,
but he might be a little too snarky. Like he just calls him Junior the entire time.
He's an older Green Lantern. He's almost like, in a way, when Frank Miller did Dark Knight Returns with an older Batman.
Yeah,
this is the oldest version we've ever seen, I believe, of this character of Hal Jordan.
And keep in mind, Hal Jordan being discovered in 2016, or not being outed or whatever, or being revealed. Let's say
right.
Predates Superman being revealed in this world. So
in the what do we call this? The DC
the
universe,
I guess.
The Gunverse, which I keep seeing rumors about how he's about to leave anyway. So I'm like, why are they saying that?
Those rumors are based on Paramount purchasing WB, but I don't think the sale has gone through yet. Also, the failure of Supergirl to really catch on, money wise, I think it had a great word of mouth. I haven't watched it yet. I'll probably end up watching it before the week is over, but
I haven't seen it yet either, and I suspect I'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I do too. And the thing is, I think that it suffered from bad press from bad actors, meaning
exactly
people that are just out to tank anything that has a female lead that could possibly be fun. You just don't have any sense of whatever. Whereas, Lanterns doesn't really, it's a TVMA story, it's totally not for kids, but it's got a sense of, you kind of got to watch it for a complete view of the entire DC universe that we have currently. But again, I could do it
just between 3 time zones. I think 96, 2016, and 2026, right?
2016. It wasn't 96. It might have been 2000.
I think it was 96. I feel like it was 96 when he first became. And it's funny because I kept thinking I enjoyed it, but at sometimes I kept thinking this feels like a very Frankenstein story. And structurally it is, because it's 3 time zones, 3 eras, right, where you're getting information. But also it felt I could feel the editorial notes happening. And so tonally it would change. And again, 3 time zones, you're allowed to get away with that, And I felt like, I think it was in 2016 where he's getting tacos and teaching John Stewart, or testing John Stewart to be a Green Lantern.
You're right. It is 1996 where John Stewart as a kid is watching the TV show. 2016 when Hal starts mentoring him, and 2026
is the current of what's happening now. So, and I felt like it was weird to me how in 2016 he's trying to get tacos and everyone wants to get a signature and a signing and a selfie. But in 2026, he's in a bar trying to start a fight to get into a jail cell.
No, that's in 2016.
That was 2016.
The only scene that takes place.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. So in 2016, we've just had a scene where everyone wants to do a selfie, and now he's in a bar where I don't know if anybody really recognized him, and they're willing to beat him up.
They did, because somebody said, Jordan, don't play that song again, or you don't know what's going to happen. So they knew who he was.
So then they didn't give a shit about that Hal Jordan was in the bar. They were like,
Right.
fuck this guy. Okay,
Right.
so then it just felt a little like it went from one extreme of like everybody loving him at the taco stand to like nobody giving a shit that he's at the bar, you know?
Right. Well,
And if there was a couple of guys pissed off at his jukebox selection, then and there were funny bits in there. There were really good funny bits in there. And the best scene is the alien interrogation scene, you know.
Oh, I don't know. I think the best line in the whole show or this episode was spoken by Garrett Dillahunt from No Country for Old Men. He plays kind of a rich racist, I guess, a malicious, but he's against aliens. You know, like it's a weird, but you can see what they're doing.
Well, it's immigration, isn't it? A stand-in for immigration, of course. Yeah.
So he says, it's always better to eat meat off of another man's grill. God.
Oh yeah, that's when he busts Jon Stewart. That was a good line. Amazing. But the best scene, though, really, is the interrogation. Alien.
Oh yeah, because it justifies Hal's acting the way he's acting. Because it was well done. It was just very well done. The way they're setting it up is this guy's got to be crazy. You know, like think about it this way: Superman hasn't been discovered in 2016 yet, if I remember correctly. So you have the two Green Lanterns talking about aliens, and the only time you've ever really heard about an alien on Earth is the one that crashed that gave Hal. Which, by the way, they broke that cardinal rule of show, don't tell. Yeah. And they just told that scene, and you're like, okay, well, maybe they'll revisit it, or maybe they figured we already know the story, of how it happened, and they're just going to tell it. And I thought it was a little long to just be telling it. They could have shown something, you know. Well, I think, but it's what is it, 8, 9 episodes or whatever it is. I think it's going to come up. Like I think it should, right? Yeah, there might be a point to that, and then because the place where the story is taking place in Nebraska is supposedly where the alien crashed and gave him the ring. Right. And then the question I have is, and I usually don't have this question, but I had this question because they had 3 different time zones. How does Hal Jordan make money? How does Jon Stewart make money? They showed you. Wait. How did he pay for you mean because he makes money? You're right. I didn't think of that. I don't know that they make money with the Green Lantern power. Yeah. But still, come on. You know, I saw that people were so upset by the twist. I was like, are you kidding me? What are you upset about? Like, that's not what's happening. Do you agree with me, Vito? I don't know what you mean. All right, so spoiler, we've already been spoiling. At the end, 2026, Hal Jordan is found dead. Yes. That's not Hal Jordan. I disagree. Okay. The entire time I was watching it, I was like, he's going to die this season. I can already tell. You know, like, and then it happened in the first episode. He's dead. Right. I think what is going to happen, I'm just speculating. Hal Jordan famously died in comics. He became, what had happened was he became Parallax, took all the Green Lantern rings, destroyed the Guardians, destroyed the Lantern battery on Oa, and then went crazy, and then had to be put down. So, you know, I didn't know any of that stuff. The Hal Jordan I remember is drawn by John Byrne. No, E-Man. Oh, Joe Staton. Yeah, Joe Staton, and like that's the last time I think I read a Hal Jordan comic. So let's, so that's part of the history of Green Lantern. By the way, famously, Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams, Jon Stewart, Hal Jordan stories as well. So. Right. So the thing that they mentioned in the story was that Hal was the only Green Lantern. There's only one Green Lantern on Earth. So now think about it like this. We've already seen a Green Lantern on Earth in Superman, and that was Guy Gardner. So there's still technically 2 Green Lanterns on Earth. So I know that Guy Gardner is going to show up. I predict episode 2 because of Hal being dead. And so they have to like kind of close ranks and figure out what
And we
would
get
happen.
to see Kyle Chandler's version because of the other eras.
Yes.
So he
And
gets to
also-
still be in the show.
And also his ring was missing. Did you notice? Scratches. It was literally pulled off of his finger. His finger was still there, but like it was, you know. So I tend to think that whoever took the ring could possibly. The other thing too is another Jeff Johns Green Lantern story was Final Night. No, not Final Night. Blackest Night. Sorry, Blackest Night. Final Night was a different thing. And it was when there was a lot of resurrections happening and stuff. So Black Hand ended up getting a Black Lantern ring, or making a Black Lantern ring, resurrecting the dead. There's been some speculation that Black Hand is involved in this season. I tend to think that just based on the first season that I've seen, the first episode that I've seen of this first season, Black Hand won't show up until second season.
Well, I don't even know what Black Hand is, but
don't worry about it.
If we're gonna, I think they can't convolute the story too much because of the three eras they're hopping through.
Sure.
So for me, I think, and I may have seen this online, and I kind of thought that had merit. And again, I don't try to look for these things. They just happen because people just love to shove their ideas in your face,
Sure.
as do I.
Dan Theodore.
But the idea of it being about aliens and quote immigration, I think that dead Hal Jordan might be Martian Manhunter. And who can disguise himself and become other, characters. And maybe he had assumed Hal Jordan's role to protect him and got killed in the process. So that means we would have to learn about a Martian Manhunter once they start to talk about these aliens.
I don't.
And that, again, but why would you then kill a character that you didn't even get to meet yet? You know what I'm saying?
Well, again, think about the other thing that is influencing this story that's being told. That's not just a Green Lantern comic. True Detective season 1. It's taking
I've heard the comparison to that. Yeah,
there's a lot of similarities between that, and that also had things going on in different timelines, different parts of one timeline, I should say. So I think that I think he's legit. I think he's legitimately dead because if you think about it this way, James Gunn is very tight when it comes to continuity of his stuff. Like with Guardians of the Galaxy, he was very tight on it. Now with Superman, he's written, Superman, the sequel. He's consulted, I'm sure, on Clayface and Supergirl.
Well, it's also Tom King and Damon Lindelof and that showrunner Messi. I forget his name, but like he was from Ozark, the show Ozark on Netflix. So I tend to think that it's legitimately Hal. They've already announced that the actor Aaron Pierre, who plays Jon Stewart, will be in the next Superman movie. So that makes sense that there's only, that there's no Hal, that there's only John. And, Guy Gardner notwithstanding, like he'll also be in it. Guy Gardner's been announced. He's doing a voice for one of the cartoons. I forget which one it is. Right.
But Nathan Fillion is in another project as Guy Gardner. So they're definitely tightening the continuity of who is a Green Lantern in this universe. Right. So the thing that I found particularly interesting was Hal says, "I am the only Green Lantern." But we've already seen with the mural on Superman that there was a Justice Society. So does that mean Alan Scott never existed? Or does that mean that Alan Scott was there and because he's not a Green Lantern through the blue alien Guardians of the Universe Green Lantern, and instead a magic lantern that he found? Is it considered that he's not a Green Lantern like that? Blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing, Dean. This stuff is all like frosting on the best cake I've ever eaten. So I'm all invested in all of the lore and all that stuff. You, thankfully, can just watch it and go, "Oh, it was a good detective story," and not worry about any of it. Like when you're like, I don't even know, like he turned into what? Like he died? What?
Right.
Like I'm jealous of you in that respect.
Right. You just froze. I hope I didn't. There you are. Okay.
No, yeah.
So I do see the True Detective comparisons because obviously it's eerie and freaky, and I liked all that. I liked all the characterizations. I thought sometimes it just felt a little like that might have been that scene might have been from the third script, and that other scene definitely came from the 17th version of the script, and I could see them trying to Frankenstein again on already a premise that's 3 different eras. So you're trying to get different tones as well, you know? And so it's ambitious in that way. And at the end, we're supposed to care about a guy that most people, if you haven't known what a Green Lantern is or Hal Jordan, now he's supposedly dead. And you're supposed to care about, well, how did he die?
But it's also just the first episode. I think there's a lot that will go towards doing that, to making us care. Like the thing that I think speaks to not caring about who Hal is he's kind of a dick, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, I got to say, I know it's a TV show. I know it's not real. I know it's like, you know, a TV show based on a comic book, so it's especially not real. But the opening sequence with Jon Stewart's father, where he plays William Tell with his son and asks, "Are you afraid?" and then shoots a gun at an apple on his head, freaked me the frick out.
It not only did it freak me out, that took me out right at the beginning of the show. I didn't believe that. I couldn't believe that. That was hard for me to believe that. And it's a great idea. And if I read it in a comic book, I could be like, oh, okay. But the fact that it's moving pictures with sound, you know, and it's more semi-realistic because it's cinema, it is so frightening that you can't. And by the way, I don't totally buy the whole, like, I have no fear, which makes me a Green Lantern. I don't know about that, but, you know, whatever. I get that they're playing with the mantra.
How does a Green Lantern become a Green Lantern?
Yeah.
It shows no fear and extreme willpower.
Exactly. So, okay, I get it. It's fine. But yeah, the apple shooting scene, it almost made me turn off the show. Not because I was like disgusted or anything, but I just couldn't buy it. It was just
I guarantee you that was Damon Lindelof, because like if you watched Watchmen, which I think is, you know, one of the better DC adaptations on TV that we've had in ever. The Watchmen, I would say it's a sequel to the original comic, not even to the movie. It is phenomenal, and I feel like he took such wide and like crazy swings, and that and they all hit. And I feel like this is something that, I mean, I could also see it coming from Tom King with his military background, you know, a little bit, but more Damon Lindelof, I think. Oh God, it just dawned on me. I think Tom's going to be at Baltimore. It's going to be insane, his line. God damn it. Like, it's going to, like, by the time Baltimore comes around, we're either going to be right around the finale of this story, and people are just going to be like, why do you do that? Why? Like, it's going to drive
I think they're doing a lot of whys right now. They're going to, I believe they'll stick the landing, because I think they totally know what they're doing, that they're preparing for the lashback right now. But I also think, you got to have Martian Manhunter in there, man. Somewhere.
I think you do, but I don't think this is him. I think,
or it could be the guy that he blew up. Never mind. That was great.
If I were telling this story, and I were doing it for the medium that it is, which is HBO Max, which means you can do pretty much anything except for, you know, penetrative sex, maybe. I think I would do this as well. I think it makes you invested in Jon Stewart, in his development as a Green Lantern. I don't even know if he has a Green Lantern ring when he shows up in 2026. Well, do you know what I mean? They didn't. That was one thing I didn't notice. Like, I'm planning on watching it again before it's episode 2. But when he shows up and he's like hugging the sheriff, and like she's like, "Oh, you haven't changed a bit," which is a funny thing, because why would he change? He just filmed it like with a beard. But because when a Green Lantern dies, Dean, I'm sure you don't know this because you're not familiar with the Green Lantern lore, but I'll fill you in. When a Green Lantern dies, his ring goes to a successor. So that's how Hal got his ring. The alien that crash landed, Abin Sur, sought him out. He was according to original lore, he was the closest person that showed no fear that could be a Green Lantern. So
which in a weird way, I feel like I might have stole that idea for the Red Hook.
Yeah.
Because the Green Point is a demigod that's dying, and after having a squabble with his lady, his goddess lady, and he's dying, and he needs to pass on his what would I call it, the secret sort of altruism, or the something like that. I don't know, but he bequeaths the Red Hook his powers, let's say, or some of his powers, and he's like, wait, you're a criminal? Like, I'm giving this to a jerk, and then he gives it to him and dies, and does like the Santa Claus thing where like, be good for goodness sake or something like that. Makes it that he has to help people, In some ways I was kind of biting, a little bit of this Green Lantern thing where he just literally randomly had to give it to someone that was nearest to him before he died.
Now,
the ring.
Again, not knowing if John has a ring, it could be that Hal's ring was taken off of his finger and then went to him. I doubt it. That's not how that looks. I would tend to think that at this point, John Stewart has proven himself through the training to be a Green Lantern, so he was given his own ring. But again, I haven't seen it. So the question then becomes, where's Hal Jordan's ring?
Right.
And who has it? Why do they have it? How did they get it? Those are your questions.
I mean, that's the story, right? Like, you've established the power, you've established the hierarchy. You got this guy in training. I assume, what is John Stewart with the goatee? Does he have a ring, or is it? You said it's been ripped off of Hal Jordan, but so all those things will come to play. Like, what are the rules? Are there new rules now because it's a TV show and they're playing around with stuff? And will other characters from the DC universe, show up for a minute here or there? Sure, like, that's why you do these things.
Yeah.
In fact, I've been watching. I watched all the Yellowstone stories, including 1883 or whatever it was. And now I'm finally watching 1923, which stars
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford and what's her name? She's amazing. Helen Mirren. And I felt like the first episode was fine. And I'm like, and there's another character that's kind of like actually a young Harrison Ford, almost like, I forget the name of that actor, and his paramour. And it's an 8-episode first season, and episode 4 happens. Well, episode 3 happens, and you're like, at the end, you're like, holy shit. Episode 4 happens, and I'm like, I'm in. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so funny how TV knows what it's doing to people, man. They know exactly how to mess with you.
And the best
just enough of a pilot that you're like, okay, I want to see the second episode. The second episode's okay, but it's not till 3 or 4 they're like, now we're dropping hammers. You know what I'm saying?
The best thing about TV is that when it's episodic and it's weekly, it gives you this chance to digest and discuss and kind of like process everything you've seen. And that's the best. Like, that's why, like, whenever people drop the entire season on like Netflix or Prime Video or whatever, like, it's never great. Like, it's always better to just like, let's just take our time with it, and let's like people don't talk around the water cooler anymore. No, that's not true. Like, people, like, in my lunch break.
Oh, they go online and they're at least at the water cooler physically. You'd be like, hey, did you see that show last night? Can we talk about it? They're not asking permission. They're just doing it, like, and I always appreciate when someone says, hey, listen, I also think it's funny that anybody thinks like, oh, would you like to know my opinion about lanterns last night? I will tell you right now. Yeah, no, I don't. I don't even want to know my opinion. And we have this, podcast we do, so it's fun. It allows us to talk about this stuff. But I also understand that nobody should care about our opinion about the damn show.
No, absolutely not. We're not experts. I mean, we work in the industry, but like, we don't make TV shows.
Right.
Yet,
right.
At least.
Not yet. But yeah, I mean, I'm kudos to Tom King, and I'm a Damon Lindelof fan, even though he takes big swings. You know what I'm saying? That guy.
That's what you want when you're dealing with even James Gunn too. Like
man.
Like the Russo brothers, they take big swings.
Yep.
Like, or maybe not them, but Kevin Feige definitely does. You want somebody that's going to take a big swing when it comes to stuff like this.
Well, speaking of, go ahead.
What's to say? My only thing that prevents me from giving like Lanterns 100% out of 100% is it's visually, not necessarily in dialogue, but visually, it's very Zack Snyder looking. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the True Detective vibe energy.
Yes, absolutely.
Kind of being like a detective show, kind of thing.
But that's working against it in my head. Not, I'm still enjoying what I've seen so far. Right.
No, yeah. And then I was gonna say, a friend of mine texted me, and she was like, "Can I ask you a Spider-Man question?" I was like, "What?" She's like, she and her husband had just gone and seen the movie, and they were like, "It's wild. That movie's crazy. Like all this stuff happening. I really liked it, but I also a little confused." And I was like, "What are you confused about?" And then she typed some more, and I went, "Wait, did you see the last movie?" She's like, "No, not yet." I was like, "You had to have seen the last movie. Come on, and what the reason I bring it up is because, like, that new Spider-Man Brand New Day story, it took the first three, a trilogy, to earn that movie, to get to that movie. Yes. And no, you probably shouldn't necessarily watch that movie standalone or without having watched the other ones. Sorry, Is it good enough to like maybe pull it off? Maybe. I don't know. I'm biased. I already saw the other movies. So I already saw the concerns and what he'd gone through with, and Zendaya. And then, Whitney, whose chair I'm sitting in, and you see her name behind me, is in London with her family. And she and Opal went and saw the movie. And then they had some questions.
Oh, boy.
And so called me up from England. They're like, I was like, "Well, what's your question? Did you not get it?" "Oh, no, we loved the movie. We totally got it." I was like, "Well, what's the question?" They're like, "Do you think there'll be another one?" And not the one where it's like, because I said to her, "Oh, well, you're gonna see him next in like Avengers Secret Wars because he's in outer space or whatever the hell, or maybe at the end of Doomsday,
Yeah,
probably." But they were more concerned about, are we gonna see, Tom Holland and Zendaya? Like, that's what they wanted. And I was like,
they're in London. They're
awesome.
Probably going to see him quicker than we will.
Yeah, right. Exactly, because of England. But it did make me think though for a second, is he going to do 2 more Spider-Mans, with Zendaya? And is he going to be 40 years old at the end of it? Or are they going to pass the baton to Miles Morales? Like, what do you think? He's
still young enough that I think like he can do another 4 movies.
Well, he can get older. He can be an older Spider-Man.
Yes. I think Tom Holland is going to be the next Robert Downey Jr. of this of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He will be the Iron Man. Spider-Man will be the Iron Man for the next X-Men.
You mean in terms of being the
yeah. So I think he's going to be around for even when Miles Morales shows up. I still think he's going to be that guy.
Well, he literally is going to be passing the baton. I mean, they'll probably be the both of them. And then it'll be Miles Morales for the next generation.
The only thing that might derail it is whoever they get to be Wolverine. If it's Hugh Jackman, whatever, maybe not. But if it's a new guy who's like solid and like can do Wolverine, I don't think Wolverine's going to be in the first X-Men.
You know who could do Wolverine? This actor that's on 1923.
Huh.
19, maybe you've heard of him. 1923 cast. Oh, Brandon Sklenar.
That's the guy they're trying to get. People are saying is going to be Batman.
Oh, he'd be a good Batman.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
For James Gunn's thingy, a lot of people have thrown his name in.
Oh, interesting.
We don't know yet, but
okay.
I will throw this last one at you, and then we got to go. So Alan Richardson from Reacher.
Yes.
He had been campaigning to be Batman, which I think he would have been great. but he has said at Comic-Con that he has been in conversations with DC for another character. Who is it, Dean?
At DC. Well,
I know who I think it is, but I want to see.
It's not Superman. Would it be a big? Is it a Wildcat? He's a big dude.
Yeah.
And I don't see him being Superman because he looks a little too.
No,
big.
we already have a Superman.
Yeah.
So who do you think?
By the way, I hate to do a little behind the scenes here. Are we able to talk about something and after the end of the recording and stay on after you? We are. There's something I gotta tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. A villain? No. A superhero.
I don't know who he's going to be, but I have a feeling.
All right, tell me who you'd like him to be.
I think they're going to cast him as Orion.
Oh, you mean bring in the new gods? Wow.
Slowly. I think slowly you bring in the new gods, and I think
wow.
with Orion, you have. Here's the thing. James Gunn casts specific actors to do voice acting on his shows.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Miracle cartoon. We have not seen a cast announced yet.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to be in continuity. So we know that the New Gods will be existing within the DC universe, in James Gunn's universe. Alan Richardson does Orion's voice in that.
I just realized who I want Mr. Miracle to be.
Who?
Keanu Reeves.
Oh, that'd be great. That would be great.
And older,
yeah,
grungier. Yeah. Anyway, all right. I'm going to Plastic City Comic-Con tomorrow. Supposedly, if the flooding stops, and I'm going with Jeffy Burant. That'll be this Saturday. The show will be on after I've been there. So, I'll be there Saturday. I am trying to maybe go to SPX because I don't think I'm going to win that award, but I love SPX and it would be cool to get there. So I got to work some angles and see what happens. And I'm doing Dragon Con, then we're doing Baltimore and so on and so forth. So.
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody that the Pack Rat and Thunder Bunny Kickstarter is still going. But more importantly, more for this podcast, the Vagabond Nowhere Man Kickstarter is at 8 days to go and about $4,000 away from goal. It's not impossible. By the time this episode comes out, there'll be 4 days. So hopefully you guys have jumped on it already. And if you have, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. If you haven't, it's Monday. Go do it now. Don't wait. Time waits for no one. Remember, we just said comics don't come with the time needed to read them. So we're running out of time. So just go to Kickstarter, look up Vagabond Nowhere Man, and you'll be able to go right to the Kickstarter campaign. And
thanks,
that's
Vito.
it. Thank you, Dean.
And thanks, Dan Theodore, for backing my comics and having conversation with us.
Yeah, that was fun. We never talk about old comic book. Comic strips, really.
Yeah, comic strips. Yeah.
So
cool.
Thank you, everyone. We will see you next week. I have no idea who's going to be on. This is going to be fun for all of us. We'll talk to you then. Good night.
Good night.